You booked it, episode 156. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Every episode is a masterclass on how to move your career forward. And if you want even more, head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the email community where we dig deep into what you can be doing right now to help book that next gig. And now, let's do this. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Teresa Espinosa. Are you ready for this, Teresa?
Yes, hi.
All right. Teresa is a proud native of Dallas, Texas. After graduating from Cal Arts, she has been working professionally as a dancer and choreographer for 24 years. Teresa, who early on in her career at the age of only 24 was nominated for an Emmy Award for contributing choreography to Janet Jackson's Velvet Rope HBO special, and traveled the world as one of her dancers. Teresa's extensive list of accomplishments includes working with renowned artists of our time, such as Prince, Britney Spears, Missy Elliott, Mariah Carey, Pink, Rihanna, Limp Bizkit, Usher, Hannah Montana / Miley Cyrus, Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez, and Haley Steinfeld. Her work as a dancer and choreographer has also appeared in numerous television shows, award shows, commercials, and films. Some of these credits consist of The Oprah Winfrey Show, Ellen, Lip Sync Battle, The X Factor, America's Best Dance Crew, Good Morning America, Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, Billboard Awards, American Music Awards, Old Navy, Nike, You Got Served, Magic Mike, and Magic Mike XXL. Her latest work is as an associate director / choreographer for Magic Mike Live and is currently showing in Las Vegas, London, Berlin, and Australia. And as of 2017, in November, Teresa had the great honor of owning the legendary Debbie Reynolds dance studio, currently called Legacy Studios. Teresa, that is a bonkers bio of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Wow, thank you so much. I haven't had somebody tell me my own bio before, and I put myself on mute because I'm laughing at myself. It's been a roller coaster of a ride over the last 24 years, coming from Dallas, Texas, being mesmerized by pop culture with Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, and Madonna and Prince. I'm an 80s baby, and I grew up in the era of the first music videos on MTV. And I was inspired by all the dance back then through Beat It and Beat Street, anything Flashdance, all of those dance movies I was just in awe of. And I had no idea growing up back then that I was going to be a professional dancer and choreographer. And I look back now and I'm like, wow, it's been a roller coaster, up and down. You read all that stuff, but what it doesn't say is all the heartache in between.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Let's get into this first section here. And Teresa, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
One of my favorite quotes is from Martha Graham, and I'm probably going to botch it up just a bit. But the idea is that she says, great dancers aren't great because of their technique. They're great because of their passion.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely. And can you maybe expand on that a little bit and how you've applied that quote to your career?
Yes, that quote really resonated with me because partly being a Latin person, I am a fiery, that's just part of my essence. And adding fire to dance really led to me being extremely passionate and focused and dedicated. And I really believe that part of me is why I've had longevity, not just success, but longevity in this industry.
Hmm.
Because we say we love something, and then when it gets hard, we give up. And I went through a lot of times where it was really difficult and I was getting cut from auditions and just wondering, where do I fit in? Why isn't it working out? But I stuck through it because that was literally the only thing I love to do is dance. That's it. So back to the Martha Graham quote, we don't have, everybody's a great dancer, but how do you become successful? And her quote talking about how passionate you are is what really is, it's the pushover into greatness, is the passion. And I know that I just had a passion and an obsession for dance my whole career. And I think that's the testament to why I've been able to do so many amazing things and push through those times when it didn't feel like it was working out.
You're right. Technique's important, right? To a point.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to a certain level, everyone's got that. Everyone's got that foundation
Right.
to build off of and to do the thing. And I should say, whatever that level of foundation is, also varies throughout the entire career. It doesn't have to be on Broadway or in music videos. It could be different levels of theater, different or calibers, if you will, or different markets. Whatever that is for you, that's when you're in there and that's your sweet spot of performing. Everyone has that foundation that's needed for that job, right? It's really
Right.
what you bring to the table that makes all the difference.
Exactly. It's real to me, being successful at anything in life, and especially because we're talking about the entertainment industry, the more I realized, the more that I could tap into my personality, my individuality, and my uniqueness, that's where I was able to be more effective. I think now there's just so much mediocrity going on because people want to, I'm going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but to me, being great at something, you really have to know who you are, what you want to say, what is your expression, and put on the blinders and ignore what everybody else is doing and just do you and focus on your voice, your opinion, your creativity, and move in that direction full force forward.
For sure. And it's so clearly obvious when you go to not just auditions, but you go to a live performance that you've paid for tickets for. When you see performers on stage that are really living in that moment, really dancing or really performing with passion, it's like night and day.
Yeah. Watching dance live is a totally different experience. Obviously, we are now in the age of technology, and so we're watching a lot of things through our phones and our
Mm,
computers. And there's still a sense you can get an essence of someone, but watching dance live, there's nothing like that because it's an
yeah.
experience. Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And let's get into this next section here. And Teresa, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there's an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Thank you for that question because I think people have an idea of what success is, especially in the entertainment industry. And a lot of it has to do with fame. But I'm going to speak for myself in the sense that growing into this career, all I wanted to do was just dance. And if it meant I was on a commercial, if it was a live show, if it was a music video, it didn't matter. I just wanted to dance. And then the cherry on top was that I was getting paid for it. The obstacles are just sometimes things aren't going to go your way or how you think it should go. I remember I auditioned for this artist named George Clinton, who's the leader of this funk band. And this is early on in my career. and I auditioned for him for this award show called the NAACP Image Awards. At the audition, I did so I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I killed it. I literally had everyone in the room screaming and cheering because I killed the routine. Like people were going nuts. Okay. So the feeling of that, like I stepped into my power and I did the routine the best that I could, and everybody acknowledged it. Here's the obstacle: I didn't book the job. So
Right.
other people booked the job. And I left the audition going, okay, that's fine. I know I did my best. I did great. And the reward at the moment was just getting that acknowledgement from everyone else in the room. Regardless, I didn't get the job. A couple of days go by, and I get a call from a friend who basically asked me if I was available to do the NAACP Image Awards, the same award show, but now this time it was for Prince. And so
Whoa.
I didn't even audition for it. I got called directly to participate, and Tina Landon was the choreographer. So this was my first time working with her. And it was a bigger dream that I could ever imagine because I grew up on Prince music and never even thought, put two and two together, that I could dance for him. So my dream of this artist that I grew up on as a kid, I'm now getting to share the stage with him. And that was an amazing experience. But the obstacle was getting that rejection and having to deal with that and letting it go, only for something better to come along just a few days later. So if I'd have booked that job, I would not have gotten the opportunity to dance with this person that I grew up on. So it worked out better.
For sure. And
Yeah.
it's happened a few times on this podcast when I've been interviewing people where they'll go into an audition, they absolutely slay it, right? Or their interpretation was spot on, but it wasn't quite right for what they were looking for to cast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Killed the audition, but they don't book it. But what ends up happening is it comes full circle because those people in the room, what you did and that energy and what you created also comes back, and then they're booking other things. They're being asked personally to go be seen for other projects, and they end up booking those instead, which is so cool about this industry. And I think that's such a great takeaway for everyone listening, that you gotta just go in there and give everything that you have of yourself and leave it there. That's the goal, is to go and show up and be present and do the work. And then the other things will take care of themselves.
Absolutely. I can even think of another time when I was on the flip side. I was a choreographer. And actually, so at this point, I was an assistant choreographer for Gwen Stefani. I was assisting Showtime for the Harajuku tour.
Mm.
And there was a guy in the audition that I felt was amazing. For whatever reason, I connected with him. I thought he was one of the best dancers in the room, but Showtime did not pick him. He wasn't the look or the style of dance that he was looking for. But
Right.
that moment of that guy dancer at that audition just stuck with me as one of the best dancers. And years go by, I'm now in the position of choreographing, and this is when I'm choreographing for Miley Cyrus. And we're about to go on tour within, I think, 2 weeks. And one of our guy dancers hurts his knee, and he literally cannot dance. And immediately I needed to replace him. And the guy from years prior at this other audition who stuck out in my mind, I said, that's the guy we need to call. Let's call him. And he showed up within an hour, started learning
Whoa.
choreography, ended up going on tour with us for the remainder of the tour. Like you just can't
Wow.
predict. You just can't predict how you affect people, even if you don't get the job. And that's just a testament to, I think, really the universe. It just works in magical ways, because I couldn't tell you why that guy stood out to me years ago, but there was a reason, and he
Right.
was meant to be a part of this other thing years later.
That is amazing. And that is such great information and insight for everyone to take away. Rewind, listen to that again. That is what's making this podcast so important, because it's stories like that that keep coming up that really show, yes, this is a fundamental of what creates a successful career. Showing up, doing the work. Oh, so good. Thank you for sharing both of those stories. Great.
Thank you.
And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That
Mm.
one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
Okay. I don't think I ever had that moment of this is what I'm going to do. It evolved into this is my career. I knew that I wanted to dance, but I didn't know that one at the time, because this is the mid 90s when I first started. I just wanted to be in a music video. I didn't
Right.
know I could make a career. I didn't know that I could buy a house. I could fund my fund my living through dance.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be literally I just wanted to be in a music video. I look back now 10 years after that, I'm going, "Oh wow, I have a career. I'm a professional dancer." But the goal was never to be a professional dancer. I just wanted to dance. So I never had that moment of this is what I'm going to do. It was just I want to do that, and it turned into years later going, "Oh, I'm a professional dancer." So that I guess that's my spotlight moment of realization.
Yeah, great. It just
Yeah.
took a decade and to
Yeah, yeah,
reflect
it
and go,
did. It
whoa,
did.
look what I've done.
Yeah.
That's neat. How did that happen?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Well, let's piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
I would have to say when I auditioned for Janet Jackson, the Velvet Rope tour, I knew Tina Landon. I had already, I think at this point, I had already worked with her for Prince, but there was no guarantee that I was going to work for Janet Jackson. I still had to prove myself and go through the audition process with, I think, 300 other ladies. I think there were 300 guys. So it was a 3 day
Wow.
process. Yeah, it was a 3 day process. Ladies the first day, guys the second day, and the third day was callbacks. And I kept getting passed through all the cuts and everything. And at the callback, Janet was there with all of her dancers. And I just really felt comfortable, partly because I kind of knew everybody. I was nervous, but I think having worked with Tina already, I just it just felt natural and I felt really good. Yeah, and after the callback, they started doing promo tour, which I was not a part of. So at the end of all of that, they start doing music videos and little shows here and there. And I just go, okay, maybe it was just good enough that I made it to the end. I can be
Right.
happy with that. And I let the job go. I let the idea of dancing for Janet go. And months go by, and Tina Landon sends me a Christmas card. And mind you, she's my idol, choreography idol. And I'm freaking out that Tina Landon thought about me for Christmas and gave me a Christmas card. And I read it, and it says, I'm paraphrasing, but it says something like, Janet and I were wondering if you'd like to be a part of the Velvet Rope project. And
Whoa.
yeah, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I love that song, Velvet Rope. It's my favorite song. And I just keep talking about the song. And I'm like, thank you. I'm thinking it's the music video. And
Right.
a mutual friend that's there said, Teresa, you know, she's talking about the tour, right? And I go, oh my God. And I start crying even more because I didn't even understand that when she said project, she meant the tour, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so that was my moment of holy crap.
Yeah. That is so
And
good.
yeah,
And can you talk about being on that project and experiencing that?
yeah. So there was a lot of back and forth after I got that Christmas card, but basically, I finally got the official call to come into rehearsals, and I had to play catch up because they were already in the rehearsal process for the tour. And I'm playing catch up. I'm green as green can be. I'm eager. I will do anything anybody tells me.
Yeah.
And originally I was just a swing. So they hired me as a swing dancer, and I'm there playing the part as Tina so that she could choreograph, she could step outside of the number and watch, and I would be in her spot. And this happened almost all the time because she was in the middle of choreographing the tour. She eventually asked me to help. She asked me to help participate in some of the choreography bits. So I was able to contribute to the actual song Velvet Rope and do some choreography with her on that.
Very
And
cool.
there's some sections in Throb that I choreographed as well. I choreographed Janet's solo in that number. And yeah, it was just a crazy experience. And originally they were all going to go off on tour and leave me behind, but through the rehearsal process, they decided that they would bring me to the production rehearsals out in Europe. So everything just kept stacking up. It was like, oh, it's good enough to go to this part, and then it would just add on. And
Right.
so I thought I was going to be in Europe for about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks for the production rehearsals. While we're in that process, Janet comes up to me and says, hey, we want to bring you on tour. So that 2 week process ended up being 3 months in Europe. And then
Yeah.
that 3 months ended up being the whole tour for 10 months. And I would
Oh,
be in the
wow.
show. I had my own parts in the show, but then I would actually swing throughout the performances. So if somebody got sick and I wasn't in
Mm-hmm.
that number, I would fill in for them. Whether it was a female or male, I was the swing for the whole tour. And it was a crazy wild ride, and I learned a lot.
Yeah. I remember watching the Velvet Rope Tour on HBO.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
growing up, and I was like, this is amazing. That is bonkers.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah, it
such
is.
Yeah, it's so cool that I love the whole thing. From when you started off, you went to the audition and you said, "Look, I just felt calm." I don't know if it was because, you had worked with choreographers before, or if it was because you were just focused or whatever it was, but that's something that's also come up a lot in here when people say, "Look, this is the job that I booked." It's when I went in there and I felt just calm. I went in, did my thing, and I left and I got it, right? Yours is a bit
Hmm.
of a more of a roundabout way when you got the Christmas letter, but then I love
Yeah.
how it was just like, we want to bring you on in on this bit. And then it just kept building and stacking. And then there at the end, you got nominated for an Emmy. You got to be part of the entire production. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it really set my career up for it. Just, I mean, Janet announced me, and people still say my name the way she calls me in the introductions. And I got to have a solo moment that at the time, back in 1997, 98, there weren't a lot of female freestyle dancers. So
Mm.
she gave me my moment to shine, and the band and I were in sync. And if you ever happen to watch this part, my face is in terror as I'm walking forward because I know that it's being filmed for HBO. And I could imagine that my whole family is back in Dallas, Texas, looking at the screen and yelling at the TV as I'm walking forward. And I'm literally saying to myself, God, please let this be the best freestyle dance I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
I'm literally praying to God as I'm walking forward. And it was magic. It was, I got to represent females in a way that weren't represented like that at the time. And now, 20 years later, there's a lot of female freestyle dancers that are crazy off the chains good. And it's really cool to see how it's expanded since then. Because prior to myself, the only other real freestyle female dancer that I knew was Tish, who was on the Janet tour previous to Velvet Rope. And
Right.
yeah.
Oh, so good. Thank you for sharing all of that. Love it. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And it's a weird time, right? We are amidst this global pandemic. How
Mhm.
do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
I think To answer your question, it's very layered.
Yes.
Yeah. So right now, even during the pandemic, I'm a part of the Magic Mike Live team, where I was one of the creators. I'm an associate director and choreographer of the live shows, and I'm a part of a team, a choreography team. And all of our shows and productions have shut down since the quarantine. And we've been meeting every other week or once a week to see how we can get the shows back up and running. Right now, we're actually looking at our first show opening back in December in Sydney, Australia, which is really nice. We're all excited about that. Next year, supposedly we have London and Berlin and Las Vegas coming back online next year. But it just depends on how everything pans out. There's really no controlling what the governments are going to do. So we're just being very hopeful and positive and just planning as best as we can through all of the changing of the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you see the entertainment industry kind of evolving through this?
I think the entertainment industry is unfortunately the last to be a part of picking back up. Unfortunately, although I think entertainment helps us in our soul, not just the performers, but the people being entertained,
Mm-hmm.
it really lifts our spirits and allows us to forget our troubles. And unfortunately, the government, obviously, they have many things to consider, but the entertainment industry is just probably on the back burner. And depending on how people feel about having a vaccine come online and that allows people to feel comfortable being normal again, who knows how the psyche of people ever really wanting to be near another person again. It's
Right.
unfortunate, but you know, the psychology of the quarantine, I think for some people, it will affect them forever. I'm hoping for the majority to not fear each other and that we can trust in the universe that, how do I say this? Trust that we're all good. It's going to be okay. And that as long as we keep an upbeat mindset and being positive about the future, the fear is really the thing I think that is the hardest part to overcome because people are afraid right now. And that just affects our industry because we have to do these things in person. We can't, we saw how Saturday Night Live was on Zoom. It sucked. How many skits can they do about being on Zoom? I don't know. But but now that they're back in person, it's just so much better. They can connect. This is why we entertain. It's to connect. It's to you. I don't know. I'm going on a tangent, but I think the entertainment industry is really going to have to start getting creative and figure out how it can best stay alive through the ever changing, again, the changing winds of the moment, because there's no guideline right now. It's just,
Yeah.
there's just no guideline.
Yeah. It's a crazy world. Rules are changing a mile a
Hmm.
minute, right? So,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you for that insight. And it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one
Okay.
after another. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
I'm going to say nothing.
Second
Nothing.
question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Just keep going.
Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
What was working for me? Oh, pre-COVID, God, just following the fun. I'm still doing that. Yeah, even during this. Yes, follow the fun.
For sure. I think so often, we get caught up. It's easy to get caught up. Once this becomes your career, the way you earn income and make a living, it's easy to lose sight of the reason we got into this in the first place.
Exactly.
And to be chasing the paychecks, chasing the resume line, instead of focusing on having fun and letting that stuff take care of itself.
Exactly. Yes. I totally agree.
And the fourth question, what is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology you've found is helping your career right now.
I'm going to have to say Brennan Burchard's The Motivation Manifesto. I love that book.
Oh, it is really good.
Have you read it?
I have. It's been a minute. Well, I should say I audible listened to it, but it's been a minute. But definitely going to have to give that a re-listen.
He's one of my favorite teachers, by the way, just about life and motivation and habits. I just love his work.
Yeah, so good. And the fifth question, if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
I loved what I did. And so I would have to say I would keep most of it the same. But in the hard times or when it felt sticky, I would just remind myself that it's okay. It's okay, and that everything is going to work out exactly how it's meant to.
Yes. Keep moving forward.
Yes.
Last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I would have to say that really know who you are and stick with that. Don't try to be anybody else. Just be you, figure out your voice, what you want to create, what you want to say, and go do that, because there's enough copycatting going on. We don't need any of that. We need leaders, we need creatives, we need people who are willing to step out of the box to push the envelope, because especially with social media right now, everyone's doing the same thing or a lot of times, not every time, a lot of times. And we are capable of so much more because we are creative and we use our body and our talents to express ourselves, but we can do so much more than we are doing. And I would just say, be true to yourself. Don't try to be anybody else.
Great advice. And to wrap up this interview, Teresa, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Espinosa22. That's ESPINOSA22. And also my coaching brand that I am starting, which is move.on.purpose. And I want to share my experiences, my wisdom, and my knowledge of the industry through dance and help other dancers and creatives really step into their greatness, because I think there's a lot of anxiety and stress and fear about not being normal and feeling like we have to conform. And I think that just is a disservice to us creatively. So I really want to help others to just step into their full power, into their greatness, because I think we are capable of so much more. And yeah, that's my calling now, is to help others.
Brilliant. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Teresa just said into the description of this episode. And to check out Move on Purpose, go to youbookeditpodcast.com/purpose and get connected with Teresa there. And also, be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, arts and entertainment educators, and anyone you know who's aspiring to create a successful career in this entertainment industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful entertainment career. Case in point, look at everything Teresa just dropped this entire episode today. And if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss tomorrow's guest. Teresa, thank you so much for being here today. It has been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't miss an episode. I have a new guest 7 days a week. Every guest drops more value and insight than any other resource out there. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating and review. Also, be sure to head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.